Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the three approaches to healing. We could also say the three approaches to illnesses or three different ways to face an illness. That would all be a valid way of describe what we're going to talk about. And what are these three approaches? I'll just say them and then I will explain. Uh, the first one is called prevention. The second one is called confrontation or using antidotes. And the third one is called transformation. Now, so we know the first two quite well, prevention and using antidotes and confrontation. But the third one, transformation, is much less well known. And in my own experience of having a very serious cancer and stage four metastatic sarcomatoid terminal cancer more than basically 17 years ago, where I was given essentially 3 to 6 months to live. I went through a whole process that was both very quick and very intense, and where a complete healing was experienced within basically 10 weeks, 2.5 months. And I realized later that what happened is that you could say I traveled the path of transformation. So this is how I came to basically learn I didn't know it beforehand when I was sick, but almost naturally I was guided through this path of transformation. And later on, I realized this is what happened to me. So let me explain just briefly what these three approaches are and what they're based on. I mean, they're essentially presented in what's called the four medical tantra, which are the medical tantras, the foundation of Tibetan medicine. So these are a number of Tibetan folios and tankas that explain and show and demonstrate what to do in basically all kinds of illnesses. It's very, very detailed, and practitioners of Tibetan medicine study these four medical tantras for years before being able to practice it. And in there, it says that these three approaches are presented, prevention, confrontation, and transformation. And basically, what are they? Well, prevention, we know, isn't it? It's everything we can do and we must do to avoid falling sick in the first place. So that's the all the realm of prevention. It's basically there's a whole industry in there. There's a lot of resource, a lot of website, lots of things we can do, and some stuff we know already, like we should not smoke and maybe we should cut on sugar and red meat and different things, especially if you had cancer. Exercising, avoiding stress. There's so many things we can do or not do in terms of prevention. And the analogy that is used to basically explain or illustrate these three approaches is that of meeting an enemy. So let's say you walk down the street and you can see an enemy coming towards you. And this is like a real enemy, like almost a mortal enemy, somebody who imagine the analogies with cancer or very serious illness. In that case, you could say, yeah, cancer is my enemy and cancer is trying to kill me uh, at first glance, anyway. So that's how the analogy is. So you see this enemy coming, and in a case of prevention, what you do is you just run away. You change street, you go on a side street, you avoid completely meeting this enemy. That's the approach of prevention, which has its place. I mean, definitely, if we can, but obviously prevention is not so applicable once we have we've fallen ill. The second one is confrontation or applying antidotes. In this case, you decide that you will face the enemy and you will fight because there will be a fight. I mean, it's so you're facing and you will fight and you're hoping to win essentially. So you're applying antidotes. So in terms of healing and medical situations, that would be taking medication, maybe surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, everything that actually fights back, pushes away or pushes back at the illness at its manifestations. So that's the approach of, call it confrontation or applying antidotes, which is also an approach that we are very familiar with. And it's all basically the realm of science, medical science and complementary treatments. So there's a lot of resources there too, and we naturally go towards this kind of help uh, when we fall ill. But the third one is called transformation. And here we see potentially illness as an indication of something. In this case, we have this seemingly crazy idea that when the enemy is walking towards us, this enemy that is a deadly enemy, very dangerous, we think, oh, I will try to make a friend of this enemy. So this is a pretty unique and not very common approach to illnesses. And I must say that all three work together. I'm not saying do only transformation or do only confrontation or, you know, when facing an illness, it's better to actually see what one can apply at all different levels. Seeing illness as possibly an indication, a sign that you have to change your attitude, that possibly you may have to change your relationship with yourself, right? You could even see, I'm going to go one step further, you could even see this illness as thinking, well, maybe this illness wants to heal me, actually. Maybe this illness is an indication of what is, I won't say wrong, what is off with me. Maybe it's the result of something I've been cultivating in my body and mind, and it's a warning shot. Change the way you relate to yourself. And when it has come to the point where it's a physical illness and you have this view, you can begin to explore the possibilities there. And if you find something, like I did, you go deeper and deeper and you find deep meaning to that illness, so much so that at the end, if you actually listen to that and are curious in exploring that, it can heal your whole being. It can be the result. Isn't it that often we hear people, and myself, I say that, after having gone through such difficulty, a terrible cancer or a terrible event in our life, something with intense suffering, after a while, once it's passed, some people will say, but you know what? It was the greatest blessing in my life. Haven't you heard that before? People will say that after a great difficult period they go through. Why? Because that event actually led them to follow this kind of transformation. They realized something about how they relate to themselves and to life. It made them change something in their life, in their attitude to themselves, and they realized, wow, actually, there was a hidden blessing there, you know? But it's very difficult to see this when we're actually in the middle of it. For example, if you had told me when I had cancer that, don't worry, Alain, this will be a great blessing, I would have probably punched you. No blessing there. I mean, I'm suffering, all right? This is not fun. I cannot see any blessing. The experience is not pleasant. But later on, you can see the effect of these things. So there's a potential there to look at. But the thing is, to be very honest with you, this approach of transformation although it's very powerful, it's very difficult to do. You know, it's actually the most difficult of the three. It's also the most powerful, but very difficult. And there is one great danger there. It's to basically turn the illness against oneself, saying, "Oh, this illness is my fault. This is because I don't love myself or because I relate to myself in such a bad way." And then use this to hurt yourself further. This would be completely wrong. This approach of transformation would fail with such an approach. It is based a lot on loving oneself. It is based a lot on accepting fully, unconditionally our situation as almost a first step. It is based on acknowledging reality, the truth of my situation. I understood early on when I faced cancer that if I wanted to heal, I needed to know the truth. I needed to know reality as much as possible. Healing doesn't happen based on illusions, based on lies that we tell ourselves or other people tell ourselves. So when I was, going through this, I told my doctors and especially my oncologist, please tell me everything. Please don't just say, for example, to my family, he has 3 to 4 months to live, and then tell me, don't worry, we're taking care of you, everything will be fine. This kind of, don't worry. I want to know exactly the situation because from that basis I can act. So I insisted very much. I think most healthcare practitioners they do this, but some of them will prefer to hide thinking you cannot take it. If you want to go on this path of healing, it's based on knowing the truth, knowing what's really happening. And it's based on our attitude. But I would say, most importantly, the essence of our mind. I will touch this, I'll develop this further. But this approach of transformation requires a basis. Obviously, if I'm going to transform, um, it means transforming into something else. Transforming means there's a potential. I could also use the word purification, but I find it has a connotation, the impure, pure, and it can lead to seeing ourselves as impure, wanting to transform into pure, which is a language that's being used sometimes in Buddhist teachings. But in this case, it is so important to not have this view of ourselves that transformation is the better word. And it's again based on, it has a basis, it has a foundation, which what is what Buddhists call Buddha nature, which I will call our fundamental nature or the essence of mind or our primordial nature. And I'll speak more about this.